Hello, everybody. Welcome to the XP Billionaires podcast. I am Rayfe and I am joined by Sky Knight. And once again, we are down the Mel Zerker, which is unfortunate, but we will have her back soon, rest assured. Planning has just been all over the place lately for everybody. So, no worries. We still got a great show for you today. Hopefully, you enjoyed our show last week. And let's jump right in. Say hello to everybody. Sky, how's it going? What's up? What is new?
I'm good. Can't complain. I've started gaming again. Now that Rafe is done with new Pokemon Snap, I'm playing it because it's cute and fun, and that's what I need right now.
And you will get tons of it. Like, there's still stuff that I could do in that, after completing the main story, but I kind of got my fill now, so I was kind of ready to move on. That's why I kind of passed it on at this point. And yeah, you've got a great game coming to you. For me, I've finally gotten back on the RPG wagon, and I am playing Tales of Berseria again, trying to get that finished up. So yeah, I really do want to get it done. I'm about 20, 25 hours in now, somewhere around that line. So, well, we'll see where it goes. But it is an enjoyable game nonetheless. So, all right. So, we have got an interesting topic here for you guys this week. So, every now and then, video games like to add that little secret shortcut to success. And usually those would come in the form of cheats. So, back in the day, we had our cheat codes, our Konami codes, or even some games actually had a cheat menu that you could unlock after either completing the game or meeting certain requirements, usually fairly difficult to unlock them. And it just kind of added a little spice to your experience. Sometimes these are not intentional, which we also refer to as exploits. So, they can be glitches, they can be things that they're not supposed to have happened, but especially in the older days, they never got patched out. They were, we lived in an age where that wasn't a thing, people. I hope you understand that, to all of our listeners. But so I wanted to talk about some of the different cheats and exploits that are out there in some of our favorite RPGs, and just talk about the concept in general. So I guess the first thing we should do is probably just identify a couple that, that are notable, that we know, that we love, that kind of thing. I mean, when I think exploits and I think bugs, when I think anything, I go back to Pokemon Red and Blue. I think Missing No. There's no doubt about it. That's, it was a Pokemon so legendary, it wasn't even supposed to be in the game. And the best part of it is he came bearing gifts. If you wanted more rare candies, great. If you wanted unlimited Master Balls, he could provide. Missing No was just so iconic to the Pokemon universe. And if you haven't experienced it, and if you haven't, I honestly don't. Have you really not gone that far back into the Pokemon universe? Seriously? You really got it. But anyway, so for those of you who haven't had the opportunity, the only way to get to Missing No was on Cinnabar Isle in Pokemon Red and Blue. Basically, you would coast along the edge of Cinnabar Isle with Surf, just up and down the one specific spot, and you would encounter him. And then in that encounter, the sixth item, I should say, that you have in your inventory basically becomes infinite. So back then there was no sorting of your items either. So if it was a TM, you'd get unlimited of that TM. If it was your rare candies, if you were smart enough to rearrange it so that it was your rare candies, it would go beyond 99. I did a count when I was first playing. It was almost 200 that you could get. But you would know that this happened because, excuse me, the 99 would no longer be a 9 in the tens column. It would be this random glitchy shape that would change every time you go through 10 of the item until it finally reverted back to 9. So I had counted how many shape changes there were at that one point, but oh man, I exploited the hell out of that. I had redone my saves all the time. I had a friend who would store some of my Pokemon, and then I would just make a bunch of level 100s. Like when Pokemon Stadium came out, like you didn't even need level caps. Like most of everybody's Pokemon were at 100 because everyone knew about Missing No at that point. So it, I mean, in the end, it was at least available for everybody, regardless of which copy of the game you had. So it did created a level playing field.
Yeah, that's a particularly strange scenario.
I, I know, and God forbid if you caught Missing No, oh my God, you risk just wrecking your save file and losing all of your progress and all of your Pokemon. But I mean, it back in those days, it was really easy to just kind of start fresh because there weren't that many Pokemon. That was only 150 back in those days. But if you had already traded for some of the version exclusives, I mean, let's face it, back in those days, trading Pokemon was hell and annoying as garbage. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and like I did a lot of stuff in the post game for the most part. I made sure I could catch all the legendary birds with Master Balls. So I remember my very first playthrough of it. I accidentally used my Master Ball on a Zapdos, not knowing that I needed it for Mewtwo. That was a big oops for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't tell you these things, right? So,
No, not without the glory of strategy guides, which they're getting so few and far between. That's something we should talk about someday. I think that would be an interesting topic, actually.
good point.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Sky, what can you think of?
Well, it's me. I'm going to talk about Suikoden because this this glitch is legendary. I am talking about, of course, the Matilda glitch from Suikoden 2. And what makes it particularly notable is that it's one of the most stable, most fun exploits I have ever seen or heard of. Basically, in Suikoden 2, there's some sort of programming mistake in the early game where you can actually push the door of the Matilda to Muse, or Muse to Matilda, sorry, the Muse to Matilda gate out of its frame. So for some reason the game thinks it's a box or something and that you can push it. So allowing you to go through the gate and access Matilda well before you should. This puts you ahead by 20, 25 levels, something like that. And it's actually doable to level up everyone in this area because all you have to do is run until you make it to Highway Village, which isn't far. And you can totally recruit Futch and Humphrey in Highway Village, who are properly leveled for the area. And then because you have them, you can survive the fights, thus leveling up the rest of your crew. So you can put 20, 25 levels more on your early game party members due to this glitch, plus access some better gear, no blacksmith, unfortunately. Um, it does make the Futch and Humphrey side quest kind of obnoxiously slow and um, annoying to complete because no one's weapons are built up. But it's doable. I've done it several times. And it's kind of fun to do. I do not recommend doing it on your first playthrough because it kind of screws up. Because you can do some of this side story stuff safely, it kind of screws up the flow of the story a little bit. So I don't recommend it on a first playthrough. But second, third, fourth, fifth, It's a fun little trick, and and if you and it will help you get through the early game quicker. Um, particularly if you've already played the game before, and already know what happens. So yeah, and it's a major boon to have Futch and Humphrey that early too, because they're pretty decent. Well, eh, meh on Futch, but Humphrey's okay. And yeah, so the Matilda glitch. And I've never heard anything about it wrecking people's save files. It's never wrecked mine. Like, it's never caused freezing or any sort of graphical issues or any of that stuff that often comes with glitches. Like, it's really stable. So, yeah, it's a cool little trick.
Yeah, I can understand why it wouldn't necessarily break the game because really like the coding mistake there would have been so minor by not locking that gate into place during that specific part of the game. So yeah, like compare that to Missing No, which is just a complete muddled piece of coding garbage that just wrecks everything that it touches. Um, I feel like there's a huge difference if you were to kind of compare the severity of the coding there. Like, I'm not much of a coder. I don't know much. I have very basic HTML experience, I'll be honest with you. But like, you can kind of just tell from looking at them. You just put the two under a microscope, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And the way that Suikoden 2 is structured is that, it's you only gain access to these certain areas at certain points in the story, right? And they just lock them behind these gates. The whole country slash countries, it's a little complicated in Suikoden 2, but all those places are gated off somehow. So it's actually handled in a really simple way. And thus, everything's sort of independent from one another, right? So this little problem with the Muse to Matilda gate um, doesn't really seem to impact anything else. I mean, it's not like Missing No. It's not like the million glitches and bugs that you can exploit in FF6 and totally screw up your save file either, for example. Yeah, it's just this fun little trick that allows you to basically ride easy through the early game.
Yeah, yeah, very, very simple. So I guess the next question that I gotta ask you, Sky, like how often do you use the as exploits? Now you said like you've done this a couple of times with Suikoden 2, but you'd already finished the game once the first time. And it's been the same for me. Like I finished the game once, but I actually haven't done a second playthrough of it. I really should because it's one of the two games in the series I haven't recruited everybody. So someday I'll get back to it. But in general, like how often would you consider using a cheat or an exploit or any type of kind of bug or anything?
Honestly, not often. Simply because so many of them do cause problems for save files or can glitch things out. And most of the time, I also want to play the game as it's meant to be played. I don't want anything to screw up that experience. And really, if I have to rely on a glitch or exploit or cheat, then well, maybe the game's just not that well designed. The Matilda glitch is really like kind of the exception to the rule for me because like I've heard about other things, tested things occasionally, but you know what? It's just most of the time it's not for me.
I get that. Like for like I do it for shits and giggles. Like, but the thing about it is, a lot of the time, if I'm going to do it, I'll do it with a separate save file if that's at all possible, or at the very least, wait until I've done a proper playthrough of the game too. Yeah, but like I remember this one time, I didn't make the cheated version, but I downloaded for my PSP a cheated save file for Disgaea for the PSP. Gave me a level 99 Lahar right at the beginning of the game and let me kind of power through that pretty hardcore. And I remember just being able to do so many things that would normally take me hundreds of hours to of grinding to even get anywhere near. And I thought that was great. Like I got to see things I wouldn't have gotten to like ever in my time. 'Cause I don't have time for that kind of leveling on Disgaea in any Disgaea game. As much as I love the series, it's a little much for me.
Yeah, not 99, but I assume it was like actually maxed out, quadruple nines.
Oh yeah, yeah, proper maxed. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The this does remind me of one of the few other exploits I've done. I had forgotten about this until we started talking about Disgaea, but there is an exploit in Disgaea 2 that I did to jump up my levels.
Oh, I remember this.
Yes, and it involves um I think they're called Nekomatas. They're like the fist fighting, like, cat
Cat
lady.
girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it was something to do involving capturing them in this one level. And so you could end up with this horde of super high level Nekomatas to help you get further, like, access further content in the game. Um, that's another one I did because, well, I mean, it's Disgaea. There's some crazy stuff up at high levels that most people just don't have time to put it in for that. So when I heard about it, I was like, "Oh, hey, might as well try it, right?" I think it allowed me to get Laharl and Flan.
It might have been Etna too. I usually they come as a complete set when you play any of the Disgaea games after the first one.
Yeah, yeah, I don't remember exactly, and I think I did manage to get them. I know I tried at least, because I had this horde of high level Nekomatas. This was like a decade ago now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was another one that I did that was kind of cool. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention it.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, we're talking about the series, so why not, right? The thing is too is like one of the nice things, and I noticed this while I've been playing when I was playing Disgaea 5 not that long ago, is that they actually seem to have streamlined the grinding a bit, making it a little easier to get to higher levels, which I thought was really cool. Like it's speeding up the process. So I'm hoping that kind of thing is available in Disgaea 6, especially when they added another like number to the max level cap. So yeah, oh my god, I don't even want to think about that. Just under 100,000, like that's just brutal.
It's something else. I admire the ambition of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about. So there are some games out there, especially the more modern ones like the Tales series. I know there's been some talk about some of the Assassin's Creed games that have done this, where they've recently implemented paid DLC that grants you or your party members free character levels. So it gives you the chance to skip some of the grind. Now, I just wonder, like, would you consider that something like this a cheat or an exploit, or should it fall under a different category? Like, what do you think?
I think it's a paid cheat, which is disgusting. It's not an exploit as we usually think of exploits because exploits are accidents. They're, mistakes in the coding process, that allow the player to do things that the developers didn't intend. Um, so like you shouldn't be you shouldn't have to pay for cheat codes. Like it's just another way for companies to milk us for more money. And it's so bad right now.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I personally think it is an exploit, but like you were saying, it's not an exploit in the traditional sense because it's not an exploit to the game. It's exploiting the player. Like it's designed to entice someone to spend money to skip what basically is typically a manufactured grind. Like a lot of the time nowadays, like these DLCs are there because they've built their game to make you want to skip the grind, which means that the game's not balanced properly. And it was not balanced properly on purpose. So that's a huge, huge problem for me. So I call it an exploit in that it's a exploitation rather than a cheat or an exploit.
I mean, yeah, like if you, it is exploitative.
Yeah, yeah,
Certainly.
that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
It's just gross. And, like I understand things can't always stay at the same price, but, um, the nickel and diming is ridiculous.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll always grab the free DLC that comes out, the free starting items or the free starter gear. And sometimes that gear is a little better than it's supposed to be, so it lets you kind of speed up the process. But you're not one, like, in those scenarios, if it's free and it's optional, that's fine. I am totally for it. And if that speeds up my gameplay a little bit, so be it. I don't have to buy it. I don't have to put it on there. And that's the problem now too, especially with the DLC, is that there's not really a way to deactivate it. At least not that I know of. Once you've purchased it, it's now there. It's now installed into your game. I suppose you could probably delete the DLC settings and re-download them later, but like it just ends up being one of those things. Like once it's there and it's there on all profiles. So if somebody doesn't want to get those things and you're sharing your console like we are, like you get those things if I've purchased them because they're on there on the game already. And like that's not fair to you for somebody who might want to just play the game naturally.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they allow you to skip the grind, it's manufactured easy mode, basically. And not everyone's going to want that.
No, no, exactly. Like this still really is kind of the thing for me. And I know like we're talking about cheats and exploits. Like those are harmless fun if they were built into it. Like like you can go back to some of the older games out there, punch in the Konami code and go get your level select, your max lives, your whatever, even potential for an immortality mode just so you can have fun. You can type them into your StarCrafts or your Warcrafts or whatever from those old days. Wow, I'm dating myself, but that's besides the point. Like if you're doing that, as long as it's not giving you a multiplayer advantage, like you're having fun. You're doing what you want to do, and that's fine. And if that's available and built into the game, that's cool. But it also has to not cost you any extra money because if it does, then they put that in there so you would spend that money, and that is pretty dirty, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's it's just an excuse to get more money out of the player, and I'm not here for it.
Exactly. Like, and we can get into a whole thing about industry bullshit all we want, but there are plenty of other people on the internet that do that. We've had our gripes, we've said our piece, and all we can do now is just kind of move on. But I just like this will always kind of be a hot button issue for me. Like we're from a time where we remember when you didn't have to pay for stuff like this, where there was cheat codes, where there was the Game Shark, there was the Game Genie, there was all of these ways to input codes. There were tips and tricks guides. There were game magazines that taught you the cheats. Like I miss Game Pro, I do. I'll admit it. Like those were great things to have. Those were great things to just be able to show off to your friends, or you got this issue with this cheat and your friends didn't. It's like, haha, I know something you don't know, nah. And that was just kind of part of the fun from our day. But like, what happens when this generation dies off? Because
Well,
that's basically what I think is what everybody's waiting for when it comes to, corporations and game publishers. They want us who remember those days to not exist anymore.
well, at very least, like all that sort of like game support stuff has gone online. Um,
I know. There's just something about like physical, tangible magazines that I miss. Like you didn't have to get every single issue, but like I remember you and I, like even just a decade ago, we would go into a bookstore and we would just peruse the gaming magazines and just look at new stuff and new articles. Like it was fun. It was a pastime for us, Like it was. I really enjoyed that part.
hey, I had a subscription to PC Gamer in my teens, right? So, like, I get it, and now I read their stuff online.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right. So I think that's where we're going to wrap it up for this week. So I want to know from you guys what you guys think about cheats and exploits, whether the ones from the olden days, the ones from now, what your thoughts are about whether or not these kinds of paid skip the grind options are considered a cheat or an exploit. Let us know. You can chat with us on our email address, and that's at xpbillionaires@gmail.com, or hit us up on our social media. You can find me on Twitter at billionairesxp, or Rayfe at Instagram. Sky, where can everyone find you?
I'm at SkyKnightXP on Twitter and SkyKnight.xp on Instagram.
And well, is here with us in spirit, so make sure you at least check her out too. Feminist Gamer 3 on Twitter and Feminist Gamer on Instagram, and check out her Twitch show that she's part of called D4 Adventures, and that's every Wednesday night. So make sure you go check that out because it looks like a lot of fun. So please do. Next up, don't forget to check out our website, xpbillionaires.ca. It is your one stop shop for everything XP Billionaires, from episodes to written work to our written reviews to really everything that we do. The weekly RPG writing roundup. I think I nailed it this time. Yes.
Yeah!
All right. Awesome. I'm going to get there. I'm going to be more consistent with it. I promise. It may take a little longer. But anyway, check that out. Sky takes so much time and care finding you the best articles on the internet so you don't have to search, even though maybe you've probably already favorited all your favorite news sites. You might find a new one there, so you better check it out. And lastly, of course, if you do want to support us or make any donations to help us out, all the links for that are on our website as well. So once again, xpbillionaires.ca. Please check it out. All right, so that's going to be it for us this week. And remember, sometimes you just got to do whatever it takes to keep gaming. Please try not to spend too much money on it if you can avoid it. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.